I thought my neighbor was stalking me too closely while my husband was away, but the truth was, he was quietly protecting me and my kids from the man I didn't know I married. Then a misunderstood situation exposed my husband's abuse. I'm 24 years old, a stay-at-home mom to two beautiful kids. My daughter is a toddler, full of energy and curiosity, and my son is in first grade, at that age where everything he learns at school is the most fascinating thing in the world to him. We live in a quiet, pretty tight-knit suburban neighborhood. The kind where people wave as they mow their lawns, kids ride their bikes up and down the block, and you learn most of your neighbors by name or at least by habit. My husband is 32 and works full-time outside of the home. He's usually gone for the majority of the day, and there are nights when his job requires him to stay overnight. So for the most part, it's just me and the kids holding things down at home. Lately, though, something has been bothering me. Something I can't quite put my finger on, but it's been lingering like a quiet itch in the back of my mind. Our next-door neighbor to the left, a man around 28 who works from home as a programmer, has started to feel too present. Not in a loud or confrontational way. Not even in an obviously creepy way. Just there, a little too much, a little too often, and always when I'm around. At first, it was easy to chalk up to coincidence. He works from home, so sure, maybe he just likes to step outside for air now and then like I do with the kids. But I started to notice a strange pattern. Whenever I'm outside with my kids, whether it's to play in the yard, walk the dog, check the mail, he's outside, too. Just standing on his porch, or working on some small project in his garage. Always looking busy, but never straying too far from his front yard. The first few times, I didn't think much of it. But then I started noticing it happening more consistently. Like clockwork. For instance, when I go to the grocery store, I'll see him leave his house around the same time. And then, when I pull back into the driveway with my groceries, I'll see him pulling back into his driveway too, like we left and came back at the exact same time. Once or twice. Fine. Coincidence. But over and over again? It started to feel eerie. It became even more unnerving when I picked up on what happens when I return from picking my son up from school. The drive is about 20 minutes round trip. Almost every time I come home, there he is, outside. But here's the part that made me stop brushing it off. We have a Ring doorbell, so I can see the exact time he comes out and goes back in. If I come straight home, he's outside for just those 20 minutes and heads inside right after I do. But if I take a detour, stop for gas, or run an errand before coming back, he stays out longer until I return, and only then does he go back inside. I started feeling increasingly unsettled. It wasn't just about how often I saw him. It was how precisely it aligned with my movements. It began to feel less like coincidence and more like he was timing his appearances. To be clear, he's never said anything inappropriate. Every interaction we've had has been surface level, a polite wave, a good morning, a nod. He doesn't leer or make me uncomfortable directly. He's quiet and mild-mannered. But it's the pattern, this unspoken, unbroken pattern, that's got my nerves on edge. It's the omnipresence that's giving me that crawling feeling in my stomach. He never seems to be out unless I am. Still, I didn't want to jump to conclusions. Maybe I was overthinking it. I mean, I'm home all day, I have a lot of time to notice things. But that doubt didn't ease my discomfort. So, I decided to test it. For about 2 weeks, I deliberately changed my routine. I switched up when I left the house, varied the route I took, and adjusted how long I was gone. I even skipped errands I usually do just to see what would happen. And every single time I was out front, no matter when he would appear. Sometimes within a few minutes, sometimes immediately. I'd come back later than usual, and he'd still be out there, only going back inside after I did. It was no longer a coincidence. It was a pattern, and I couldn't deny it anymore. Now here's the thing. I haven't told my husband about any of this. Not because I don't trust him, but because I do know how he is. He's got a bit of a temper, nothing dangerous or scary, just intense. If I even hinted that I thought our neighbor might be watching me, he'd be out that door in 5 minutes, fists clenched, demanding answers. Worse, he might let his imagination run wild and start thinking something is going on when there's absolutely nothing happening on my end. And I really don't want that. I don't want drama. I don't want tension with the neighbors. And I definitely don't want to give my husband any reason to get the wrong idea about me. So I'm stuck in this weird limbo of noticing something, feeling something, but not being sure what to do with it. I feel like I can't talk to anyone about it, not without sounding paranoid, or being told to confront him, or to install more cameras, or to just trust my gut. But what happens if my gut is wrong? Still, I can't shake the feeling that I'm being watched. that my movements are being tracked, that someone is quietly syncing his routine with mine in a way that feels too intentional. It's not malicious, at least not overtly, but it's unsettling, and it's wearing on me. About a month after, I finally cracked and told my husband what had been going on. It wasn't some big dramatic moment. I wasn't even planning to bring it up that day. We were sitting on the couch one evening after dinner. The kids were playing in their rooms, and we were both half watching TV. I don't know why I said it, honestly. Maybe I was tired of carrying the anxiety by myself, or maybe I just needed some validation that I wasn't imagining things. Either way, I turned to him and casually asked, "Hey, have you noticed Trevor outside a lot lately?" My husband furrowed his brow and replied, "Trevor?
No. Why?"
And I instantly regretted opening my mouth. I tried to brush it off. "Oh, no reason. Just seems like I see him out a lot when I'm outside, that's all." I even laughed a little, trying to play it off like it wasn't anything big. But the tone in my voice must have given something away, because my husband suddenly narrowed his eyes and said, "Wait, what do you mean you've noticed him?" It went downhill quickly from there. He kept pushing, asking what I meant, why I was paying so much attention to the guy, if something happened. I said no, nothing happened. I just noticed this weird pattern, that Trevor always seemed to be outside when I was, that he never came out unless I was out, and how it had been unsettling me. I explained the ring footage, how I had tried to change my routine for a couple weeks, and how it still didn't make a difference. I was hoping he would hear the concern in my voice and just take it as a reason to be a little more alert or maybe even reassure me.
But no.
That wasn't how he reacted. He exploded. It was like I had lit a fuse. I could see it in his face the second I finished talking. His jaw tightened, his nostrils flared, and his fists clenched. "Why the hell wouldn't you tell me this sooner?" he snapped. "What else has he done? Did he say something to you? Did he touch you?"
No.
"Nothing like that." I tried to reassure him, my voice shaking. "I just thought maybe I was overreacting. I didn't want to upset you. I just wanted you to know, that's all." But he was already on his feet. I got up too, blocking his path, trying to calm him down, but he was already heading toward the front door, muttering, "This guy thinks he can creep around my wife and kids like that?
Nah.
I'm not letting this slide." I begged him not to go. I pleaded, told him it wasn't worth it, that maybe there was an explanation, that maybe it was all some weird coincidence. But he wasn't listening anymore. He was too far gone. He stormed across the front lawn and went straight up to Trevor's house, pounding on the door with his fist like he was trying to break it down. I followed behind him, but kept a distance, mortified. I couldn't believe this was happening. I could feel the eyes of our neighbors from all directions, curtains being pulled aside, porches lighting up. It was a quiet neighborhood, too quiet for this kind of scene. People noticed everything here, and this was definitely going to be the talk of the street. Trevor eventually came to the door. He didn't open it at first, just talked through the glass, clearly trying to assess the situation. My husband was yelling before he even had the chance to ask what was going on. He started shouting accusations. "You got some kind of problem, man? You think I don't notice what you're doing? Standing out here like a damn creep every time my wife steps outside." Trevor looked visibly startled, but his expression hardened fast. He finally opened the door just a crack and told my husband to leave immediately. "You need to calm down," he said. "You're on my property and you need to go." That obviously didn't go over well. My husband got more aggressive, accusing him of watching me, of stalking me, of being a pervert. Trevor's voice started rising too. It escalated into a full-blown screaming match right there on the porch, the kind that echoed down the block. I stood on the sidewalk, frozen, heart racing, completely horrified. I couldn't believe how fast things had spiraled. And then it got physical. I didn't see who shoved who first, but it happened so fast. They were both grabbing at each other, yelling, stumbling back into the hedges. I screamed for them to stop. Someone must have called the police because they arrived within minutes, sirens blaring, lights flashing. By then, both men had backed off slightly, breathing hard and glaring at each other like they were just waiting for an excuse to go another round. The officers separated them and tried to de-escalate the situation. My husband was still fuming, trying to explain what had happened, but the officers weren't having it. One of them told him bluntly to go back inside, calm down, and to stay away from the neighbor unless he wanted to be charged. They took Trevor's statement too, but since there were no serious injuries, they just warned both parties and left it at that for now. I wanted to disappear. There we were, the couple who brought the cops into the perfect, peaceful neighborhood. People were standing on porches and sidewalks, whispering, watching, and judging. I didn't even have it in me to look anyone in the eye as we walked back into the house. When we stumbled back inside after the police left, I finally thought the worst was over, but that was just the beginning of a nightmare I never saw coming. My husband turned on me like a tornado. His eyes were wild, his breathing ragged. "Are you sleeping with Trevor?"
Why were you asking about him?
Why'd he get so defensive? He screamed, pacing back and forth like a caged animal. He was so angry, I barely recognized him. This was not the man I married. I just felt uncomfortable. "You ruined it," I told him, trying to steady my voice. "Remember how I've been telling you I felt watched? That I saw him outside every time I was?" I tried to ignore it. Instead of calming down, his anger turned violent. He screamed at the walls, punched them until they shook, hurled picture frames and decorative things across the room. I hit pause when I realized how much I was freaking out. My heart was pounding like someone trying to escape my chest. I stepped forward, trying to reason with him, arms raised, voice honest. "Please calm down. The kids." He shoved me, and that's when everything shattered. Fear flooded me. I never thought he would touch me, but in an instant he did. He grabbed me roughly, twisting my arm. I fell against the counter, winded, torn between calling 911 and finding a safe way out. Finally, I managed to get my phone. I locked myself in my bedroom, trembling so hard I could barely dial 911. When the police came, the same ones who'd broken up the fight outside, they found me in tears, phone in hand, bruised and shaken. He was arrested on the spot for domestic violence and assault. The next few hours showed the weight of consequences. He was taken away, bookended by flashing lights. I ended up in the ER with a CT scan and specialized trauma counselors who helped me report everything properly. My kids were with me the whole time. They didn't fully understand, but they sensed my panic. They asked if Daddy hurt Mommy for real. "Yes, baby, he did, but you are safe now." When I got home that afternoon, I forced myself to knock on Trevor's door. My heart was a fist, afraid, regretful, embarrassed. I expected to be yelled at or ignored, but instead he opened the door with a gentle look. "I'm sorry," I said, thick with tears. "This got all messed up." He stepped aside and invited me in. It all came out, how I'd felt watched, how frightened I'd been. Then he told me something that almost broke me. He said he'd known my husband had a bad temper, and he'd often seen us outside playing and staying safe. After hearing the shouting during the shouting, he was concerned. He'd been watching me, not to scare anyone, but to make sure I was okay. He said he spent those minutes outside thinking, are they hurt? Are the kids safe? Is she alone? Do I need to call help? I didn't know what to say, shocked, relieved, tearful. "I thank you," was all I could manage. My thank you sounded threadbare, but I meant it with every fiber. Of course I have no interest in reconciling. The man I loved disappeared the moment violence entered our home. I have a protection order against him now. He hasn't seen me or the kids since that night. But this is where it hits hardest. My 6-year-old keeps asking why his dad used hands instead of words. I swallow back tears every time. My 2-year-old hugs her dolls and whispers or shouts, "Daddy, don't hit. Don't hit." It breaks me. These are the echoes of trauma, repeating my fears back to me in childish voices. They're seeing child therapists now, and I'm in counseling. We're working on unpacking fear and replacing it with trust. It's not easy, but it's necessary. I'm not ready to divorce yet. Divorce is a mountain with lots of loose rocks. We don't have enough money, time, or energy to climb it all right now. But my heart is clear. This marriage is over. I will end it when I can, with paperwork and legal help. For now, I'm focused on safety, stability, and healing for me and for my 2 kids. Yes, the neighborhood is small.
People saw.
They whispered. Some have offered help. Some turned away. But in the end, this is my truth. That once love can become unrecognizable. That safety can be shattered in the blink of an eye. That saying no, even to someone you once promised forever, can sometimes be the bravest love you give your children.